Well, we're back again, and boy, oh boy, I'm enjoying this series. This is a whole new series to my good friend Murad over here, who has been working. Murad, we've gone back a few years, haven't we?
Yeah, I think from 2020.
So we're going on 4 years that we've known each other. I got to know you because of Mel. Mel is a good friend of yours, and you've been on his channel, and of course he's been on your channel. And here's the name of your channel right at the bottom. Saint Murad is your channel. Am I correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Go on his channel because everything we're bringing in this channel already has been done by him in his channel. But what we're doing is Murad and he is a native Arab speaker, and what he is doing is he's going back to the Arabic from what it was actually written as in unpacking it. And this is what anybody who is an exegete of any scripture, whether it's the Quran or the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads or the Vedas, any book that claims to be a scripture, a revelation from God, you need to go back and you need to do it justice. You need to read the script that is there. And you need to make sure that you exegete it. That means you interpret it or you translate it or you write it the way the author intended. That's good exegesis. What Murad is finding is that almost every one of the English translations of the Quran today in modern standard English, they've eisegeted. That means they've put on what the author never intended. How do we know that? Just look at the Arabic and unpack the Arabic. But I can't do that. You can't do that, but Murad can. That's why we have him here. And Murad has agreed to come to work on this. He has his own translation of the Quran now. It is going to be out in print, and maybe by the time this series is finished, it may be out so you can have it. Once that is the case, we will let you see where you can get it and how you can buy it or how you can pull it down on PDF. But Murad, it's great to have you back again. We're going through a series of what we call the standard Islamic narrative, how it's imposed its views on the translations. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, as we have seen in previous examples, and now we will continue, the translators, they superimpose the standard Islamic understanding, which came in much later than the Quran, over the English text, as if it is an integral part of the text, and this is actually disrespecting the English reader. So these examples that I will show now continuing are just like very problematic. If the English audience knows this, they will be very upset how these people are just not respecting their intellect, you see?
Hmm.
So now I will share and go to example number 9.
So this is example number 9 of 40 that you have found that you're bringing out in this series here. And we're in the third category of this series, looking at the standard Islamic narrative. Those are the Islamic traditions that are written ninth and 10th. As we're finding, they're from the 12th to the 16th century, imposing it back onto the 7th century. And obviously, there is an agenda behind every one of these impositions. So, number 9, let go ahead. The Battle of Badr.
Yeah, the Arabic text here is saying وَلَقَدْ نَصَرَكُمَ اللَّهُ بِبَدْرٍ. وَلَقَدْ نَصَرَكُمَ اللَّهُ بِبَدْرٍ, just بِبَدْرٍ, by Badr. Now here it says in Sahih International, the Battle of Badr. And here Muhammad Sarwar says the Battle of Badr. And he says it right away without even putting brackets, as if this was always there. But actually in Arabic, what it's saying is by Badr. Unapologetically adding the word battle to Badr is a classic example of Quran mistranslation. Why do they do that? Because they assume that that Badr is a battle, when in reality Badr is a certain time of the year. Badr has to do with the moon. Badr has to do with the moon. Actually, also in 1001 Nights, the girl was called Badr al-Budur, meaning like the beautiful moon of moons. This is a time of the year. This has nothing to do with a battle. The sin standard Islamic narrative made them too narcissistic to see this truth. They didn't open the Arabic dictionary. They just jumped to Al-Tabari, Al-Bukhari, and these people. The correct word is, of course, in my translation, And it's not some genius that I have done. It is just that I opened the Arabic dictionary to see what this word means. And it has nothing to do with a battle, you see?
Oh dear. Now hold on a minute. Are you telling me that this whole translation, when Allah gives victory in the time of the whole moon or the time of the big moon, is that what it is?
Yes, it's a very specific date, like the 14th night of the full moon or something along those lines. I have it exactly in my translation. I don't recall it now, but it's because, of course, I want to whet the appetite of people. This has to do with time, not with a place, not with a battle.
So obviously the standard Islamic narrative knows that they had a victory at Badr, so they're putting that in here. They're imposing that in here and making a name of a battle. Let me ask you this. Is there a place called Badr that's outside of Mecca, or has that also been created because of this verse?
No, there is no place called Badr. And this strengthens my idea. And also here, if you look at the word Nasarakum, it's not give victory. Nasr is the word champion as a verb. When you say, are you championing your friend or as advocate? So God was advocating you by this time, by this particular time. And as you see, of course, Islam has everything to do with the moon. And my friend Lloyd, he made a great series about monotheism, how Islam has to do with moon worship and the crescent and stuff. This strengthens the idea, you see?
So, so the word for victory, they just put the cursor down underneath it again. Nasrakum, Nasrakum,
Yes. Masarakum.
Nasarakum. Yeah, that's right. There's the three fathas there. That should actually be advocating.
Yes.
Oh dear. This is great. So in coming and going, they have mistranslated and imposed their view on this. Fascinating.
Yeah, and also in when they get my translation, it will be only PDF and Kindle. It's not gonna be physical. But when they read my translation, they will find every single word different. Every single word. There is nothing like they are used to. So that's why it's a very good idea for them to get it, so that they get the ultra literal translation of the Quran.
Great stuff. Thanks so much. You have another one.
Yes, again, we are still with the Battle of Badr. So as you can see, when I have chosen these examples, it's not I'm just picking and choosing. It's because there is a pattern. These people, they have a pattern of standard Islamic narrative. Too much sin going into these translations.
That's a
Here it
double
says,
entendre for those people who didn't pick that up.
yeah, here it says, وَمَا أَنزَلْنَا عَلَى عَبْدِنَا يَوْمَ الْفُرْقَانِ يَوْمَ الْتَقَى الْجَمْعَانِ. So, يَوْمَ الْتَقَى الْجَمْعَانِ, meaning the day the two groups encountered or met. Now, these two groups, they could be two groups meeting at Starbucks. This word is very, very general. These are not two forces that are going to fight. Now, here, as you can see in the clear Quran, it says, on the decisive day when the two armies met at Badr. Here he shoves at Badr, which is not in the Arabic. Sahih International. The day when the two armies met at Badr. Again, they shove it here. Hilali and Khan. The day when the two forces met at the Battle of Badr. So they take it a step further and shove the word Badr in other contexts where it does not belong. Why? Because the sin standard Islamic narrative says so. When you look at this verse, how they exegete, they will say this is at Badr. They get this from Tabari, Bukhari, and these people. But in the Arabic, it never said that. And also here, Yawm al-Furqan actually is always mentioned with Moses. This could be the day when the sea split, because Faraqa means to split. So what's going on here? Why are you shoving Badr when it might be wrong altogether? You see?
My goodness.
Now here, again, Battle of Badr in another context. In the Arabic, it says nothing to do with Badr, but as you can see here, the clear Quran says, why is it when you suffered casualties at Uhud? Here he says Uhud, this is another battle supposedly with the Prophet. And then here he says Badr. Same with Sahih International. It says on the day of Uhud, which is not in the Arabic. As you can see, the Arabic, I have nothing highlighted. There is no Badr, there is no Uhud. And here they say the enemy in the Battle of Badr, Sahih International. Again, shoving the Battle of Badr and Uhud in there, when this actually could be something else altogether, something more general. So what do you think this is all have with the Battle of Badr?
Well, it looks very clear what they've done here because these are such big battles. There are three major battles to begin with in the 620s, 624. You have the Battle of Badr. Muhammad has just moved up to Medina from Mecca. He needs to show his authority. The Jews confront him up there. He institutes the Constitution of Medina. Now he has got to confront the Jews, and of course the Qurayshi from there in Mecca come. They're on their way back down from traveling, and Muhammad goes out in the to this battle of Badr, the plain of Badr, according to the traditions, and with 300 men he defeats 1,000 men, comes back victorious. The Jews don't support him, and so he throws the first Banu Qaynuqa out of Medina. A year later, in 625, the Meccans come to revenge against that attack, and you have the Battle of Uhud. And in the Battle of Uhud in 625, he loses and almost dies from a very severe wound. So these battles are there. These are two huge battles that support the history of Islam. You've got to find them in the Quran. So they're imposing them here in chapter 3, verse 123, in chapter 8, verse 41, and in chapter 3, verse 165. They've got to find ways to impose it and
Yes, أسباب النزول.
this is they have to put this reasoning in so that this makes sense. There is no, I mean, this is fascinating. I had no idea there was no Hud or Bada there. They have imposed that into English with realizing that those of us or people who cannot read Arabic would not know that that's not part of the sentence. This is called desperation as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and the only time the word Badr is mentioned, it is actually a certain time of the year, a certain phase of the moon. They shove the word battle in there. The word battle is not in the Quran. It's ma'raka, it's not in the Quran. So they keep shoving these battles that never existed. They superimpose them on the Quran. Maybe this is by the time the Abbasids were crafting the Muhammad myth. It's something that I don't want to go further in. There are a lot of other people that really does better work than me in this area, you see, but I'm just talking about the language here, the linguistics.
Well, for someone who does work in this area and who is very much interested in what is happening historically, it now suggests that this helps support this very what the standard Islamic narrative is trying to create. They're giving a backstory to Muhammad, since there's nothing written about him, and this backstory only gets written in the 9th, 11th, 12th, and 16th century. Then it stands to reason that they've got to then, once they have the backstory, they've got to impose it onto the Quran without realizing that you can't do that. The text has already been written, and therefore these are nothing more than impositions.
Exactly. So this was Badr. Now we will go to another word, which is anfal. This word is very critical. It says here in the Arabic, يسألونك عن الأنفال قل الأنفال لله والرسول. الأنفال, they ask you, O Prophet, regarding the spoils of war. And here, Sahih International has bounties of war. Ignore the fact that it says, O Prophet and O Muhammad everywhere. We are just looking at this word, anfal. What is nafl mean? Just in the primitive Arabic dictionary. We have another verse here that will crack it, that will shed light on this word. It says, وَمِنَ اللَّيْلِ فَتَهَجَّدَ بِهِ نَافِلَةً لَكَ. نافلة is the singular for anfal, but in the feminine form. This is something in the Arabic that's not in the English. It's no big deal. Here it says, and rise at the last part of the night offering additional prayers. And here it says as additional worship. Nafila is something extra. It is not spoils of war. So here when the Quran says tahajjad bihi, meaning rise at night and pray as an additional prayer for you, not as a spoils of war for you. But this, of course, is another standard Islamic superimposition to shove Muhammad in there. Now here, وَوَهَبْنَا لَهُ إِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ نَافِلَةً. So we have blessed him with Ishaq and Jacob as an additional favor. Nafila, additional favor. And here Sahih International also has it as an addition. So Allah did not give Ishaq and Yaqub as a spoils of war. He gave them as something extra. Now there could be an Islamic objection to the way I am reading this. Islamic propagandists will not like my translation for the word anfal, even though it's based on linguistics and not on the sin standard Islamic narrative. Their objection would be that anfal is different than nawafil. But this is simply false, as the difference is just that one is masculine and one is feminine. This is something in the Arabic. It doesn't get translated in the English, and it is not a problem. This is and I will show in another example now. They are just so used to it sounding different to them, as they have been conditioned by years of sin, standard Islamic narrative, that washed their brain, and now they think Anfal and Nawafil are something different because they keep reading Tabari and Bukhari, and it is engraved in their mind that Anfal is the spoils of war of the Prophet. Even something as bad as the Arabic Wikipedia, which is very bad, the one we have, much worse than the English. But here also, I am bringing this to show that everyone knows that an-nafila or an-nafl, meaning anfal or nawafil, بمعنى الزيادة, meaning something extra. So the verse is saying something extra. When there is something extra in the war, not war, something extra in general, like leftovers or something, then Allah and His Prophet will get the fifth. It is not necessarily spoils of war. This is an addition that ruins the text. Now, here, this is a response to the Muslim objection if they say that nawafil and anfal are different. As you can see here, the word ar-rukka, it means those who bow down. So this is one variation. This is the plural for rak'een. It could be rukka or rak'een. Here it is rukka. They have it as those who bow. And here irka'u ma rak'een, and bow down to those who bow down. So these are two variations. In the Arabic, you can have two variations for one plural. This is not in the English. In the English, it will be those who bow down and only that. So nawafil and anfal, it means something extra. It has nothing to do with spoils of war. And just that, I will ask you, what do you think so far?
Well, this is fascinating. So here's another example where they've imposed what a verse that a word that already exists. In this case, nafil and anfal, which means additional. They have put it to spoils of war. Now I can see the logic in that. I mean, I can see if it's additional, what additional? Well, these are the additional things that are given because of what they take whenever they're in battle. But what you're putting out is fascinating, because one of the comebacks is they sound different. Of course, they sound different because one's feminine, one's masculine.
Nawafil is the feminine because its plural will be, its singular will be nafila. and anfal, masculine, and its singular will be nafl.
Okay. So thinking and saying that that's the comeback, if that's the comeback that they failed, then they're not really, they don't understand the Arabic and you do. And I think that's great that you're able to say, hold on a minute, be careful here. They may sound different, but that's just because you're talking about two different sexes there. Now,
Yeah.
I mean, it's fascinating. You're bringing up two more examples. One of them, probably the most devastating one, is the one on Badr. I was assumed that this was always a field outside of Medina. I've been told this. Listen, all my studies have said that there is a battle. There was a field. It did happen. It is straight outside of Medina. It's even there today. You can go see it. It turns out that there is no place called Badr. It has been, if anything, it's been recreated because they need it now, and they probably have named a field or anything outside of Medina as it. But what's fascinating, you said this word doesn't even mean a field. It doesn't even mean a place. It is actually a time period, and it's a time period that is of the middle of the full moon. And so, in the context, you can read it. They have put this in there because they need to find an application for this battle, and they need to find an application for Uhud, which is the second battle. So they put that in the day the two groups met, but in this case, you're saying they put the day the two groups met at Badr. Most likely, this could even be referring to Moses himself when the seas were being parted. In chapter 3, verse 165, these words Uhud and Badr are not even there in the Arabic, yet they've imposed it there in the translation. Again, because they need these battles to be somewhere in Scripture, so this would then help them with.
Yeah, أسباب النزول.
So
It
asbat,
it means the reasons for dissension.
in some ways, this is the reasons for that verse, isn't it? The asbat al-nazul. And so it seems like in every case, they're trying to find a reason. They're trying to find a support. They're trying to find authority for these instances that they have in the prophet's life or in the early period of Islam. And in every case, you're saying, be careful, be careful. There's another reason. There is a completely different word. It doesn't mean that. And this is nothing more than imposition. So that's 10 that we've gone through. We're about a quarter of the way through. Let's go, and we'll be looking at some more. Come back with us because we have another ones that come up with the imposition of the standard Islamic narrative on these words. When you look at these words, that's not what they're supposed to mean. This is nothing more than eisegesis. Thanks so much for this time together. Thanks, Murad, for doing all this work, and thanks for sharing it with us.
Thank you very much for having me, Dr. J. And the next segment, uh, this presentation actually, it will be fire as we keep going on. The more we go on, the harder it will be. So people should stick around and subscribe because this is going to be very good stuff.
Great stuff. This is Murad and Jay